Salut, c'est Aurélie. This week I didn't have a lot of inspiration for today's episode, and at first I was like, right, I'm just not gonna share anything, and that's a bit sad, but I'm not a robot, I'm just a human being trying to do my best, so that kind of stuff can happen. And then I remembered that on Friday night I used a technique on myself to motivate me to read a book, a 400 pages book. And I was like, wait, I think that you have the topic of today's episode. So in this episode, I'm gonna talk to you about that technique, but it is not a magical solution. And you have to keep in mind that we are all unique and we all have different ways to think, to study, to work, to motivate ourselves, etc. So this technique, it did work on me, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna work on you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Of course, I can only encourage you to try it, but if you see that you don't have any results, I think that you can give up on that technique and try a new one coming from another YouTuber or coming from a book, a podcast, whatever. But I do think that it is worth a shot. Because I hope that with this episode, it's gonna open a new door and a new room inside of your brain. And you can decide to just say hi to the people in that room. You can decide to go meet them. But you can decide to do that for just 2 hours of your time or do that for 2 months. That's up to you. But I really think it's important for you to know that that door with that room behind that door, they exist and it's worth trying. But then if it doesn't work, just give it up and try a new one. Anyway, now I'm gonna talk about that technique. So, as you know, I'm trying to read at least one French book a week. And last week, on Friday night, I hadn't read anything yet. And I was like, okay, so I really want to read this week, but I don't know which book I want to read. I could kind of cheat by reading just a book that's 100 pages, but I'm not sure I'm gonna like it, so that's not really cheating, but that's reading a book for reading a book. But on Friday night, I really wanted to read a book and enjoy it. And then I remembered that a few weeks ago, I had bought a book from my favorite author, which is Guillaume Musso. He writes in French, but I'm sure that most of his books have been translated into many languages. And then I was like, okay, so I'm gonna read that book because I'm sure that I'm gonna love it. And next week I'm gonna read a book that I will maybe enjoy a little bit less, but that's okay because this week I would have read a book that was awesome. So I started that book on Friday night, maybe, I don't know, 10 p.m. And I finished that book on Saturday 4 p.m., maybe 5 p.m., don't really remember. But it took me less than 24 hours to read that 400 pages book because I just loved it. And this week, I don't have any books from him that I haven't read yet, so I'm gonna have to find another book. But that's not a problem because what I needed was some fuel for the engine, for a car, let's say, and the car is myself. So what I needed was some fuel into the engine that's inside the car, but once that engine is warm, it's ready to go. What I mean by that is that sometimes to get started, it's easier to start with the stuff that you like and then do the stuff that you like a little bit less. And last week I read a book that I loved. And today I'm gonna read a book that I'm not gonna enjoy that much, but I'm still gonna like it. And that's okay because now the car is on its way. It has been warmed and fueled last week, so now it can ride for a few weeks. without needing any new fuel. I really hope I'm making myself clear with all that kind of analogies, allegories, I don't know how it's called. So the idea of this technique is that sometimes to start something, it's easier to start it with the stuff that you like the most in that domain, and then you do the stuff that you like a little bit less. And I know that other people are gonna tell you, no, you should start by the stuff that you hate the most, and then you finish with the stuff that you love the most. Yes, of course, that can also work, but I know that for me it doesn't work, and it really needs to be the other way around. I need to start by doing something I like that my engine is fueled, it has been fed, and then the car can ride for hours, weeks. Another example, and I hope this one is gonna help you understand me a little bit better, because I know that in French I managed to say that idea pretty clearly, but in English, I'm not sure. In December, we had a blocus time in Belgium, and in Belgium, a blocus, it's 3 or 2 weeks that you have to just study before the exams. And so during those few weeks, you're not supposed to have a social life or have fun, etc. No, you should be studying like that. You're gonna pass all of your exams. That's the main idea. Of course, you can do whatever you want, but usually that's what people do. And during the first few days, I managed to study. And then for 2 weeks, I didn't do anything. I was just not motivated at all, and I was just tired of translating stuff. I was tired of studying grammar, etc. And then, during the third and last week, I decided that, okay, I do want to pass all of my exams, so I'm gonna have to study right now because the last 2 weeks have been quite a mess, so I'm gonna have to study right now if I want to pass everything, which I did. So I started by studying not the first exam that I had, but I started by studying new technologies, which was maybe the 6th or 7th exam I had. And it was an exam I had during the second week, so not even the first week. But I knew that by starting with something I liked, which was using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. If you want to know more about that, I talked about it 2 weeks ago, I think. Link in the description. And I knew that if I started by something I liked, then I would be able to study the 100 pages we had for history of international relations. But I couldn't do it the other way around. I couldn't start with 100 pages of history of international relations and then do something I liked. No. Me personally, I really needed to start with something that I liked, which was Word, Excel, etc. And then, once the engine was warm enough and ready to go, then, yes, my car was riding and I was studying history of international relations, etc., etc. But to get it warm, etc., I needed to do new technologies first. So sometimes, and I know it worked for me, you just need to do the stuff that you like the most first, and then it's gonna motivate you to do the stuff that you like a little bit less. But also doing the stuff that you love the most first, sometimes you're gonna be like, okay, right, I am done. I have done the stuff that I like, so I don't want to do the stuff that I don't like, so I'm gonna stop here. Yes, that's something that could happen, which is not pretty good. But yeah, I would say that's the bad side of this technique. I hope I have made myself clear. I'm not really sure, but you can write a comment about it in the comment section. It's gonna be available on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. And if you have already used a similar technique or a very different one, you can also write about that in the comments. And that's it. Thank you for listening. I really hope that now you can see that new door with that new room inside of your head. And then if you decide to enter that room or not, that's your choice. But knowing that it exists, that's pretty great. That's it for me. See you next week. Bye.